Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth anniversary episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I am your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer of jakestake.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. If you're watching this on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up, or if you're listening to this on any of our audio platforms, please give us a 5-star rating and please subscribe. This is a very, very big episode for me because I'm inviting one of my heroes and one of the people that saw me at the very first start of my journey for podcasting journalism. So I'm very honored and thrilled to welcome her. She is an Emmy award-winning journalist that anchors the 5, 6, and 10 p.m. news at Denver 7, ABC 7. Her reporting and anchoring skills have been recognized by the National Association of Television Arts and Sciences, the Colorado Broadcasters Association, and the Associated Press and Women in Communication. She's also part of the CU Boulder Alum Club, so go Buffs!
Yay, go Buffs!
And not to mention, she has covered so many incredible news stories throughout her career, including the Columbine and Aurora theater shootings, the 2000 Democratic National Convention in Denver, and 3 of the Broncos Super Bowl appearances. So please help me welcome Anne Trujillo to the podcast.
Woohoo! Thank you, Jacob. That was a great introduction. Thank you so much. And I have to say, I'm so excited to be here talking to you because it's been a while since we've had a conversation, but I can safely say that you were always one of my favorite people to work with when you were here in Denver a few years back. And you were passionate, you were excited, so excited about the news industry. You asked the right questions. That doesn't always happen with interns, and you were one of the special ones. So I do remember you as just being this enthusiastic, incredible worker, and I enjoyed my time working with you.
And I gotta say this, thank you so much. You were one of my favorite staff members there. You made me feel so welcome, and I'm so grateful I had the opportunity to anchor, to be one of the interns and learn from you, because you're still one of the best to have does it. So, Anne, thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All righty. So, Anne, for those of you who don't know, one of the biggest stories of the year is actually this is actually one of the final weeks of your legendary career over at Channel 7.
I have been here at Channel 7 in Denver 7, for 39 years. And actually 39 years and 1 month to be exact. And people have been asking me, why not wait and do 40 years? And I just said, it just feels right now. It just feels like a really good time to be home with my family during the holidays. I'll be leaving November 16th as my last day. That means I will get to enjoy Thanksgiving and Christmas with my family and just be present, because I just have lived and breathed this job for all of those years. And I've had great support of my family, my husband especially, and my 2 grown children. But I am also now a grandmother, and I get to spend some time with my grandkids. And that's a really fun, exciting new phase of life for me. And at the same time, Jacob, I also feel like, there's something more out there for me. I'm still going to live here in the Denver area. I'm a forever Coloradan, and I just feel like there's more that I can do out in the community rather than read the news. So here I am.
First of all, you have guided Colorado for almost 40 years, and you were great comfort for them. And as someone that watched you as an intern, I want to say I want to model myself after you. I want to be able to provide the comfort, but also be informative. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. It has meant a lot to me to be in this position. And I think it does make a difference when I grew up here. So I have that connection automatically to the Colorado community. And then secondly, it's also an obligation. When it's your home, your people, your neighbors, your kids' friends, your family's friends who you're reporting to, that is a very serious obligation that I don't take lightly. I know that I need to have correct information to share with people and not be outrageous, not to be snarky, not to, people want facts, they want information, and I've always taken that very seriously.
And and many generations appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
So how has broadcast journalism evolved since you first joined Denver 7?
And that is a loaded question because it has changed so much in that just even thinking about technology. I mean, the fact that you and I are able to even have this conversation, just looking at our computers is kind of a crazy concept because just starting within this TV station, KMGH, I started in the newsroom where we had manual typewriters and we had old-fashioned telephones at our desks. So, I mean, if you can imagine just the noise factor in a newsroom, and we had these teletype machines going that were constantly spitting out information from Associated Press and United Press International, and people on their phones and people typing away on their old typewriters were, and I know a lot of you are not familiar with manual typewriters, but you had to have a heavy hand to type, and I'm physically showing you how this works because you had to just pound away. So it was just a noisy place to begin with. So that whole concept of technology is just one aspect. In fact, I do remember getting computers in the newsroom and thinking, I'm going to keep my typewriter under my desk just in case this computer doesn't work. And I kept it there for quite a long while, but now we're also dependent on computers. I don't know what I would do without them. So the technological aspect, just news gathering in general, again, we were reliant on just our landline phones to be able to call people and say, hey, can I get an interview with you? And now we can do everything by recording on our desktops if we want to, or running out, with a photographer to go shoot a story. So all of that has changed. And what else? And smoke-filled newsrooms. Everyone was smoking.
Wow.
So all of that has changed dramatically. But the concept of news gathering, it hasn't changed that much. It's still a science of the who, what, where, when, why, and how. And so I think real journalists follow those guidelines. And I think the lines have gotten blurred over the years where there are people who talk on TV and they share opinions, they share their biases. And then there are news gatherers, there are real working journalists. And so I think that's probably the biggest challenge to the industry right now, is that the lines have blurred in a lot of ways, that you have to really be careful about who you're listening to and having a better understanding of what their agenda is and why they're telling you certain things, because there's just too many people out there who want to share their opinions, but that doesn't make them a journalist.
I agree. And I 100% agree with you. It's and now you add social media into the mix. And so it gets even more messier.
Exactly. And I think that, especially with social media right now, people want to spew their opinions constantly, and they do it sometimes just senselessly without even realizing what the consequences are. So I think, if anything, that I've learned to step back from social media. I think when we were first all getting on, what is now X, formerly Twitter, and some of the other outlets, I think it, was all very exciting and fun and new. But I think now that's become way more complex, that I feel like I just need to step back a little bit and just enjoy what I'm seeing on social media and letting it be social, rather than trying to hear and see opinions and knee-jerk positions that people are taking on those outlets.
I have to agree on that, because even I at times have fallen for that. And it's very hard with me right now, and with all the stuff going on with Israel, with all my personal opinions with that. So, but however, it's not about that. We're here about you.
Okay. What would you like to talk about?
All righty, let's talk about some most memorable news stories, because you've done a lot of incredible work over the years. There are a lot of stories. So what were some of the most memorable stories that you covered?
Most recently, Jacob, you may not know this about me, but I am a huge hockey fan. I'm a Colorado Avalanche fan. So last year when they won the Stanley Cup, I was able to cover all the games. So I was at every game. here and in Tampa. And so that was something that that was always one of the things that I wanted to do as a newscaster here in Denver, Colorado. So that was a big coup for me, a big accomplishment. But honestly, there have been so many major events in Colorado that I have been privileged to be a part of. And you mentioned the Aurora Theater shooting, the Boulder shooting, Columbine shootings. Those were some of the most memorable for me. And I think in part because that's when you show your humanity, right? That's when you realize that this is not just spewing out facts and information. This is real life where people are counting on your every word, and not just me, but other newscasters in the area, to really fully understand what is going on and not give out bad information or inflammatory information. You have to be really careful in those kinds of situations that your cameras are not pointed in a direction of some event that might end up being traumatic for people seeing it at home, or hearing information that is untrue and that you have to step back on. So those honestly are probably the most memorable events in my career, and certainly not positive ones, but ones that where as a journalist, as a professional, as a person living in Colorado, as a family member, as a parent. I mean, those are all the things that go through your brain and your body as you're trying to absorb this information and present it in a reasonable way to people without trying to be alarmist.
And you've done a magnificent job. And also you're a part of history as well. The 3 of the Broncos Super Bowl appearances.
Yes, that was, I think, yes, fun, because it's fun to be part of those championships. But I have to tell you, when I was in New York for the Broncos Super Bowl appearance, and they didn't win, by the way, that was so trying, because if you think about, you're on the East Coast, but we're on the Mountain Time Zone. So everything's 2 hours ahead of time, right? And so those were probably some of the longest days of my life. We literally would get off the air at midnight East Coast time, drive to wherever we needed to get to go sleep for 5 hours. And then we'd get up again by 7 o'clock in the morning and keep going, because we'd have to go out and shoot stories, do interviews with people, and then be on the air again at 5, 6, and 10 p.m. that night. So those were long, exhausting days to be part of the Super Bowl coverage. And then honestly, to not even be able to be near the field is probably the least glamorous thing about the job, because every time that I've covered any of these events, we literally are either sitting in a trailer or in the parking lot looking at a big screen while you can hear the crowd next to you cheering and having a great old time. So it's not like you really get to be inside and be like, a fan, but it's still a pretty special opportunity to go and do things like that. Yeah.
And not to mention, you also were part of places where Denver was a beacon of hope for a lot of things, including, not to mention, former President Barack Obama's Democratic National Convention in Denver, which was historic.
It was, and it was a huge event for Denver, Colorado. I think there was so much happening at the time, and I think that everyone was prepared for all sorts of possibilities. There were fences that were put around the whole ball arena area. There was high security because people just didn't know what to anticipate. They were thinking there were going to be protesters, maybe potential violence, and it ended up being this peaceful event for the most part, and just awe-inspiring for me. I mean, I got to see so many fascinating people who, some of the news people who we've all admired over the years. And because we're an ABC affiliate, I got to stand next to George Stephanopoulos and Gwen Ifill. I got to chat with her, and just all of these incredible people who I have watched on TV and have admired for so many years that, there I was getting to be close to these people. Harry Smith, Dan Rather, I saw there. I mean, just that, beyond all the experiences of being around all the politicians, it was for me kind of, my excitement of seeing fellow journalists who I've been able to watch and admire over the years.
That must have been amazing to be with those names. I feel so envious because I was trying to do an internship with the Boulder and did not get there in time.
So cool. It's, those are some of the great, some of the great perks of this job. I mean, I feel like I always learn. Every day I have the opportunity to learn. There's no 2 days alike. And I love that. I mean, I think that everyone should be in that position to be able to learn and grow daily. And honestly, even, I've been here a long time, but to work with 25-year-olds who teach me new things every day. Sometimes it's with my phone and I'll say, help me, I can't figure out how to do such and such. But beyond that, I mean, just to even be around multiple generations, people of all walks of life, people of, just diversity all around. I think that is such a valuable asset in a newsroom and in any environment for that matter, because we can all learn and grow from one another. And that's what a newsroom does.
Awesome. And I miss being around a newsroom. I miss being around that camaraderie. That camaraderie is nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
Right. No, it's huge. It's like most people in their jobs, you spend more time with your coworkers than you do with your spouses or significant others. And so you do develop these amazing friendships, some that last a lifetime. And it's a treasure, not necessarily people who you would have thought that you would end up being friends with, but you sometimes are working in situations that bring you closer together when you have felt so deeply in a situation. I've talked a lot about, Aurora and Boulder and Columbine. When you work side by side with people and you have just taken in all of this information, and then you can afterwards sit and cry about things. I mean, that bonds people for life. It really does.
I totally agree on that. So what have been some of the challenges that you faced throughout your career, and how have you overcome those obstacles?
Challenges. Thick skin, first of all. I think it's just in general, when I first started in television news, there were not a lot of women. There were certainly not a lot of women of color. And there was a push back then. But there was also a situation where women were put in positions where they hadn't necessarily been trained. So there were some cases where women, they I don't want to say they failed, but they just weren't able to excel. And so people would say, aha, well, they don't belong here, right? So I think there are situations like that. Even I know when I started, there was the longest time where I felt like I needed to work harder and faster and smarter and keep plugging along, because I knew that there were people along the way who felt like I didn't belong here. So I don't know, Jacob, I just wouldn't go away. I just felt like, no, this is where I need to be, and this is what I want to do. And I'm going to make sure that I succeed and learn and grow into this position. And maybe that humility is what helped me endure, because I really do feel like I just wouldn't go away. And because I just knew that this is what I wanted to do. So, but there were definitely obstacles along the way. There were, bosses along the way who would have happily had me leave and tried to push me to leave at different points. not very often. I'm thinking one news director in particular, and she ended up getting fired. So I knew that, this was my place. This was not her place, right? So those are some of the obstacles that I feel like I had. But maybe being a working parent for a time was, I don't know how it is now for a lot of working parents, but I felt like there was not a lot of opportunity for me to even talk about my kids, or if my kids were sick, or if I had a school event. It was just something that I kind of learned over time that I didn't really talk about in the workplace, because, people just made judgments about women who were working, or working moms. Didn't make the same kind of judgments about dads, because they felt like, oh, it's the woman's responsibility. So that was something that that I think a lot of women in any workforce has had to deal with over the years. Honestly, my husband was such an amazing support, in that he was, and still is, a very strong parent, and we were partners in parenting. So when people would say to me, oh, that's so sad, you don't get to be home to put your kids to bed, I would say, they have the greatest dad. He is so involved in their lives, and it is a co-parenting situation. He never shirked his duties in any way, and if anything, it was a great support for me. And my kids are strong and smart and capable adults who I know were very proud of me and my job, and it meant a lot to our family to be a good, strong family with two very strong parents.
And you've inspired countless and countless of journalists, both men and women, throughout your time, including this person.
Thank you.
So I'm so proud of all that you have done. And what will you miss from your time at Denver 7?
I think you said it already, Jacob. It's the camaraderie. Honestly, I will miss my friends. I will miss learning. I will miss having my finger on the pulse of what is happening in Denver, Colorado, day in and day out. But I also know that I'm leaving a newsroom where there are very capable people here, a lot of really smart people, and so I know the station is in good hands. And it's just time.
I gotta say this, Anne, you are incredible, and you are seriously one of my favorite journalists, and you inspire so much to me, and you matter to a lot of people, including when I was a student at one of the most trying times, because it was the height of the Great Recession, and you were really strong supporter for me. So I want to say thank you. But you pass along a lot of great advice. So as we are recording this, we have several students in CU Boulder that are the class of 2023 and the class of 2024 who are getting ready to go out to become journalists. So if you had any advice for current and prospective journalists, students who are pursuing this profession after they graduate, what advice would you share with them?
I think know your craft well. I think that you have to be skilled at photography, at editing, at writing. You need to be able to do every aspect of this job, because that is what is expected of journalists. There is no walking out of school saying, I want to be a news anchor and getting a news anchor job, because it's not that simple. It is, it's a fast moving, complex system that you need to have multiple strengths if you want to be able to work in a newsroom these days. And then I think just be strong in your convictions. If you feel like you want to be a journalist and you can meet that criteria of having the standards and expectations that the Society of Professional Journalists place on our fellow journalists, then this is a place for you. If you feel like you want to be, an opinionated talker on TV, there are other places for that, but journalism is not your place. So I think knowing that there are a lot of expectations, that yes, we work nights, weekends, holidays, mornings, middle of the night, it's not a job for everyone. And if you are ready and willing and able to do all of those things, then it's a great profession.
I totally agree. So last question, are you ready?
Sure.
All righty. Where can they connect with you on social media?
LinkedIn now is the place to go, right? For everybody. So LinkedIn is easy. I will still be on Twitter. I'm also on Facebook, but probably LinkedIn is the best way to find me. Otherwise, I'll be playing Lita is what my grandkids call me. I'll be playing Lita a lot of the time.
Awesome. So, guys, have you missed an episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast? Visit our channels on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, Spotify, and Spreaker. It's Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. Now, are you on social media? Because I'm on social media too. Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. Now, do you want to see what's going on in this season of Masked Singer? What about last seasons of America's Got Talent? And my take on the latest new music, head over to jakes-take.com. Once again, jakes-take.com. And Anne, I want to say thank you so much for all the inspiration you've given me. You are been one of my heroes when it comes to the journalism world. And I want to say you make me proud to be a Denver 7 intern alum, proud to be a CU Buff alum. You are one of the best journalists, and I'm so honored and thrilled that I have the privilege to be one of the last people to have a conversation with you. And thank you so much for celebrating my podcast's 4th anniversary.
Of course. I'm happy to be here with you, Jacob. You are always one of my favorite coworkers as well. So it's my honor that you asked me to join your podcast. So it's my pleasure. Thank you.
All righty, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, have a great one, everybody. Goodbye.